He promised forever. Then he disappeared. In a world where promises echo louder than truth, she had believed in his words, his touch, his quiet devotion that felt like the calm after every storm. For years, she thought they were building something unshakable, a bond that could withstand the noise of fame and the shadows that came with it. But she was wrong. He left without a goodbye, without a message, without a reason. And when love collapses in silence, it doesn't break cleanly. It shatters into 1,000 invisible pieces that no one else can see. She remembered the night before it all ended. The laughter, the shared dreams whispered between long hours of filming. The way he had reached for her hand, as though time would always wait for them. In his eyes, she saw tomorrow. But by morning, he was gone, and tomorrow had become something cruel. At first, she told herself he just needed space, that maybe the weight of his world had grown too heavy. But days turned into weeks, and every unanswered call carved a deeper wound. The world around her moved on, but she stayed frozen in the last moment they shared, replaying it over and over like a scene she didn't know how to end. The headlines came before the truth did. They always do. His name was suddenly everywhere, paired with someone new, another actress, another story. The media painted it as a fresh romance, as if the past they shared was nothing more than a rumor. She tried not to look. She tried not to care. But the images found her anyway, in the glow of a phone screen, in the whispers behind her back, in the hollow spaces between her breaths. The world applauded his charm, his rise, his perfect smiles. They didn't see the hollow space he left behind. They didn't know about the sleepless nights or the quiet tears that slipped into the silence after the cameras stopped rolling. She did what she always did. She smiled for the world, pretending that the heartbreak was just another role. But love has a cruel memory. It remembers the way someone says your name. It remembers the warmth of their voice, even when you wish it didn't. In every interview, every public event, every forced smile became another reminder that her forever had been rewritten without her. She learned the truth months later, not from him, but from a friend who couldn't hold it in any longer. There had been pressure from his management, deals signed in secret, decisions made for image, not for love. He hadn't just walked away. He'd been told that love was a weakness he couldn't afford. That being with her would cost him everything he had worked for. And he had agreed. That was the part that broke her. Not the deal, not the betrayal, but the fact that when the world told him to choose, he hadn't chosen her. There was no confrontation, no closure, no grand goodbye. Just silence, heavy and final. She deleted his number, not because she wanted to forget, but because she couldn't bear to see it anymore. She stopped checking the news, but the universe has a way of sending reminders when you least expect them. A commercial, a billboard, a scene from an old show they once shared. Everywhere she turned, his ghost was there, smiling for the world, untouched, unbothered, untouchable. And yet, late at night, when the city lights dimmed and her mask slipped, she still found herself whispering his name into the dark. Not out of longing, but because it was the only way to release it, to finally let it drift into the distance where it belonged. Months passed. The world forgot their story. New faces replaced theirs on screen. New rumors replaced old ones. But love stories don't end just because the audience stops watching. They end in quiet moments, when she could finally look at his photo and feel nothing, when she could smile without pretending, when the pain became memory instead of identity. It didn't happen overnight. Healing never does. It came slowly, like the dawn after too many sleepless nights. It came when she started doing things without wondering if he'd approve. It came when she laughed again and realized it was real. She learned that forever doesn't always mean for life. Sometimes it just means for a season, a time that shaped you, hurt you, and taught you what love isn't. And as for him, he remained the man who disappeared. Maybe he regretted it. Maybe he didn't. The truth is, she stopped needing to know. Because some questions lose their power once you stop waiting for the answer. Love, she realized, isn't always about holding on. Sometimes it's about having the strength to let go before it destroys what's left of you. And though the world had once labeled her as the one who was left behind, she now saw it differently. She wasn't left behind. She was set free. Fame had taken from her her peace, her privacy, her belief in promises. But it had also given her clarity. It showed her that not every heartbreak is a tragedy. Some are beginnings disguised as endings. Years later, when their paths crossed again, an event neither of them could avoid, the air was still for a moment. Cameras flashed, lights blazed, and for a heartbeat, the noise disappeared. He smiled, that same familiar smile that had once melted her world, and she nodded politely, a quiet grace in her eyes. There was no bitterness left, no accusation, no weight. Just two people who once believed in forever, standing as strangers who had outgrown what they once were. He spoke first, his voice gentle, uncertain. She listened, not out of nostalgia, but closure. The kind that doesn't need words. The kind that simply is. When the photographers called his name, he turned away. Back to the spotlight. Back to the world that had always claimed him. She stayed for a moment longer, watching, remembering. Then she turned too. Not back, but forward. The crowd faded behind her. The noise dimmed, and the night air felt softer than it had in years. She walked without hurry, her heels echoing against the marble floor, her reflection steady in the glass doors ahead. For the first time in a long time, she didn't feel the need to look over her shoulder, because she had finally realized love doesn't disappear when someone leaves. It lingers in the lessons, in the strength it leaves behind. It becomes part of who you are, not what you've lost. He had promised forever, and though that promise was broken, the version of herself that rose from the ruins, that woman who learned to stand again, became her own kind of forever. The world would go on to write its headlines, to whisper its stories, to imagine versions of their love that never truly existed. But only she knew the truth, that sometimes the most painful goodbyes are also the most necessary ones. Because you can't rewrite someone else's story, no matter how much you once loved your role in it. So she let him go. Not in anger, not in sorrow, but in peace. The lights faded, the noise dimmed, and for the first time, she felt free to start again. Not as someone's love story, but as her own. In the end, he had disappeared, but she had returned. And sometimes that's the quietest, most powerful kind of victory there is. Would you like me to write your next one in this same soft narrator heartbreak tone? Or do you want the next script to have a more